in this session, we're going to talk about an aspect of entrepreneurship that's often less glamorous, but perhaps the most real. It has to do with emotional challenges, with the setbacks, with the failures, and with a very human side of leading through uncertainty. We often hear about unicorns, founding rounds, growth metrics, but behind all of those headlines, there are countless stories of sleepless nights, of doubts, and resilience. And today we're going to have 4 amazing entrepreneurs that have lived these truths and will share with them today openly. So please welcome to the stage Sergi Bastardas, Héctor Mata, Vladimir Lupenko, and Elena Betés. A big applause. Great, amazing. Thank you all for being here. I think we have amazing serial entrepreneurs in this round table. So to start, let's rewind a little. If you could please share, like in a one-liner, the ventures that you've funded before your current company, and in a nutshell, what are you building right now, so we all get to know you a little bit better. Sergi, if you want.
Go first. Well, hey everyone, nice to meet you, and thanks for having us. I'm Sergi. I started my career at Amazon. Basically, I was lucky to join Amazon when it was starting in Spain. We were 40, grew to 1,500, and I saw that what I liked was the building stage. So in 2017, when I was 24, I launched Colvin, which is basically disrupting the floricultural supply chain, and left after 6 years of leading the company, which I will explain a bit more later. And now I'm building Orbio, which is an AI-first HR system. We just raised 7.5 million. We communicated it last month, and we've been growing quite fast for the last 5 months.
Amazing. Thank you. Héctor?
Yeah, in my case, I started building things since I was 16 years old, or something like that, from Cuenca. But before Shakers, I founded and lent to vendors. The first one, a crazy story between my 18 years old and 20 years old. We founded an online travel agency, and we scaled from 3 founders up to 65 members in 1 year, and then we crashed the company. But with the technology that we created, I founded my second company. I spent there between my 20 to 27 years old, from 3 founders again to over 160 teammates, more than 25 million euros in revenues, and then Barceló Viajes bought us. So I spent 2 years integrating Viajaway into Barceló. And since 2021, surfing with the future of work at Shakers.
Great, super. Vlad?
I started my career as a consultant. In a couple of years, I decided to become an entrepreneur and continue my consultant practice. So it was my first business. By the time I didn't know what it is startup, just business, because it was cash flow positive from first month. And at a later stage, I co-founded a marketplace for second-hand cars. What I'm doing right now for more than 6 years, we help people to have more confidence with smiles, and we do it at pretty large scale. We co-founded Impress 6 years ago with the idea to change the way how orthodontic service industry operates. We discovered that it can be more digital and more efficient, so we start building technology to improve clinical operations and treatment planning. And now we support patients across 9 countries and employ more than 500 of doctors.
Wow, amazing. Elena?
So previously, I tried to build 3 times price comparison platforms. And I said 3 times because the first time didn't scale. And it's called Punto Seguro. It's now a profitable business that is run by my brother. The second time I went bankrupt, and the third time I built a Rastreator, which was like really successful and known in Spain. After that, now I have a new life as an entrepreneur. I'm building like a clinic specialized on mental health on kids. And our ambition is to put the therapists on the schools and do a lot of prevention as a key factor to improve.
Great, great. As I mentioned, no, for serial entrepreneurs that have lots of things to share. And now let's move to the theme of our panel, no? Which is, what would you take to a desert island? So imagine you're stranded as an entrepreneur in a desert island. What would be the one thing, tangible or intangible, that you would absolutely bring with you? And I promise there would be no judgments. Sergi again.
Now that it dropped, I would be on the phone, but with a Starlink connection, and just call me if you need.
I will say curiosity. I will go in this philosophical way. Keeps you alive, keeps you learning. At some point, it will help you to find the way forward.
Nice. Very philosophical.
Well, I would take fishing rod to make sure that they can eat something. In addition, probably you remember this movie with Tom Hanks, Castaway. Yeah. So he,
Wilson.
And he took Wilson. But Wilson was his hope, and believed that he can come back. So I would like to take someone who could give me hope.
Nice.
So when I received that question, I was, what the hell is this panel about? But let me share the process I follow. First, I start putting in a notebook. Yeah, I should take that, to drinkable water, blah, blah, blah. Then I went, as a second step, I told my team, I'm calling a panel, what should I bring? And everybody was saying things. And at the moment I share it with my team, I connect with my emotional side, and I landed into, I'm going to bring my horse. And then the funny thing is the third step, of course, I check it with ChatGPT. I say, if you will be me, what will you bring? Amazing. ChatGPT say, your horse. So it's quite scary, I would say.
Super, great. Well, now let's move from survival kits to survival stories, and I think this is like the most interesting part of the panel. The four of you faced setbacks in your entrepreneurial journeys, but still decided to keep on moving or even restart. So let's deep dive into these experiences and most importantly on the lessons learned. And now, Elena, we will start with you. Okay. You expanded Rastreator into many markets, and you publicly mentioned that some of them had to be closed, and also, as you mentioned earlier, co-founded other companies or previous companies in the insurance space that didn't gain the traction that you aimed for. So what did those experiences around product market fit, around expansion, teach you about leading today?
I think my first failures teach me more about the gap I had in terms of know-how. I was enthusiastic and typical entrepreneur, but I didn't know a lot of things. So I think the first failures were more about my limitations than even market limitations. I think after that, and especially because if you imagine I have taken a business model and I have tried several times, so at some point I understood it. It took me a while, but I understood it. But then, when we start expansions, it was not an easy model to change because regulation, price comparison is extremely different in different countries. And sometimes I miss listening more the people in their local environments. When I arrived to China, they say China is for Chinese. And I was like, yeah, of course, we are building a Sino-foreign, this is going to be fine. No, it was for Chinese. And I couldn't, probably find the right talent, local talent, that is willing to challenge you and get to a different level, I think was for me the main learning, really. Local talent that challenge you and maybe even you letting them challenge you about some things.
Great, thanks. Now, Héctor, you mentioned also, no? You co-founded several companies, but todo listo en OTA at 18. Yeah. You grew it quite fast. You mentioned after a couple of years, 60 employees and considerable revenues. But unfortunately, challenges around monetization and cash flow management forced you to close the company. So what was this experience like for you at such an early age, and how did it influence the way you built your new ventures?
Yeah, starting a company at 18 years old, it's crazy. Zero experience, my teammates were my close friends, and I spent all my energy into building product and traction, and not too much energy in cash flows, take rates, and all this kind of boring stuff. So I deeply understand a couple of things. For me, financial discipline, in terms of reporting, cash flow management, expense management, auditing your accounts. And the second one, and probably it sounds obvious, but it's not easy in a tech company, not confusing revenues with cash flow, because ARR is not the same as money in your bank. And at the end of the day, we all need to generate free cash flow from our companies. So, yeah.
Great. So I keep that having financial discipline is quite important. And Sergi, you also mentioned left Amazon at 24 to start Colby.
Correct.
It also scaled quite fast, more than, at its peak, and please correct me, more than 300 employees, double-digit revenues, more than 70 million in funding.
Correct.
great. I know my facts. And then when it was time to step down the company, but yet you decided to build again. So what happened? And how did or which experiences from Colvin shaped your new entrepreneurial path?
Totally. I think like taking a step back, no, and going on. I think that's the first time I properly share what our story has been, no, and it's a deep story when you get from the company you've built into stepping down, no, but just starting where we started, like Colvin ran for 6 years. I built it at 24. We raised more than $70 million. We got it in 6 markets, more than 350 employees, and we were growing 2 to 3x on a year-on-year basis since inception. No? So I think that's what I take. But after I stepped down and I was reflecting back on the story, I think that all the companies have inflection points, right? And I think at this inflection point is time to reflect as a founder, as a company, what is the path that you truly want to take. And I think both on the funding perspective, there was 2 paths. Path A is we continue growing the company. We continue believing that there's a truly category-defining business that can change the floricultural industry, which was my drive and why we built the company. Or there was another path, which is, hey, we don't believe that this will happen, and the company has to go to profit. No? And there's not a middle ground. If you go in the middle, you're not succeeding, right? So I think that there were several discussions there, and for me, Plan A was something I would go for. I felt excited. I would put all my energy into it. For Plan B, I didn't feel excited about it. I think I was not the best one to lead it. I was not excited. This is not what I left Amazon at 24, and I was building a career in the startup world. So I just think it's a hard decision that you have to take with yourself, no, and with also your co-founders and your investors, and say, hey, what's the best for the company, and where do we want to take it? So that's the decision we took. Of course, we took certain hard decisions also to restructure the company, to restructure the debt, so the company could continue operating as it's operating now and continue growing. And on myself, I took that opportunity to reflect back. No, I think that as founders, as people, as professionals, we tend to just these decisions are taken by us more times than others, and I want to decide by myself. That's why I'm a founder. No, that's why I want to understand the problems I want to work on. I want to understand and work in something that is meaningful to me. No, so I take this year plus, best experience ever to get to know yourself. Also, what you really want, what brings you energy, what doesn't bring you energy, and yeah, I concluded that what I wanted is getting back to building again. That's what I enjoy. No, and I was traveling, and I remember I was traveling in paradise for some months, and I was in a room reading stuff. No, so I enjoy learning. I enjoy being able to understand new possibilities with technology, and I was lucky enough that I was leaving my previous company, and the AI application layer disruption was starting. No? So suddenly, a lot of problems that I have faced, a lot of problems that were passionate or interesting to me, are solvable, right? So that I think this connection happened, and yeah, it felt naturally, with a lot of ups and downs. On hey, I met a lot of teams. I tried a bunch of ideas that I didn't like. I got more clear on the founders that I wanted, the type of investors that I wanted. We launched 5 months ago, and yeah, we're doing quite well. So I think taking this time to reflect what you really want to work on pays off, and on learnings there's a lot. I don't want to to just get all the answer, but I think it's just now we're building with more intention, with more clarity. And again, what I know passionates me is not building a business; it's building a category-defining business, something that really changes the pains that we see. And for us in Orbio, HR is broken. HR is just a department that is at the bottom of the organization, full of administrative tasks, no clear data, and the resource to really deliver the impact that they need in the organization. And now with agents, we can really power them to actually create conversations at a very low cost. We can get data from conversations and process it, so we can understand data from one-on-ones, we can understand data from hiring, we can understand why people leave. So that's basically what we're building now, truly connected to pains I've faced before, that also my co-founders have faced, as we both built companies before. And yeah, happy to jump into more details if someone wants to know.
I think this is super interesting, and thank you for your transparency. No, that taking the time to make the right decision, taking the time after all those years, all those ups and downs and everything, to decide, okay, this is not what I would want for my future path for the company, and maybe it's not the right thing for the company or whatever. And I think that's very, very insightful. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Vlad, last but definitely not least on this question, you're a foreign founder that launched Impress at a highly competitive market and faced lots of challenges or hurdles around the way, all related to scale, so numerous fundraising rounds, inorganic acquisition growth opportunities, expansion to new markets, and leading with competition and lots of new incumbents. So what was one of the, or what has been one of the toughest moments, you can mention more than one if you want, that you faced, and how did that influence on how you're leading Impress today?
You know, there were so many, and I have my personal rule. I try to erase bad stuff from my memory, otherwise I will get crazy. And I believe that founders should have positive mindset in order to move forward. But since you have this question, I try to remember one, which was really tough. So we launched in 2019. And it was extremely good start. So we were growing revenue like 30% month over month. We started receiving huge attention from investors. I felt kind of euphoria, you know, like I was able to choose the terms. I was able to discuss whom investor will be in our cap table. But then Black Swan, which is called COVID, and this pumpkin like disappeared, you know, like in one day we lost 99% of revenue. We had very, very limited runway, and we were about to crash completely. And I really said to myself, so we cannot shut down the business after successful launch, because fundamentally the business is here, so the business model is working. We just need somehow to survive. We made a lot of crazy stuff, and we made it. And it was, you know, heavy lifting. Like we're humans. By the time 6 years ago, I was 6 years younger. So a lot of energy, but it was emergency mode, you know. And we were able to successfully go through this very, very challenging time. But then another real black swan happened, which was health. So my co-founder became unconscious, and she stayed in ICU for a couple of days. And it made me think how we do it and how can we move forward. It was very, very challenging time, and I wanted to share.
Oh, thank you for sharing again. And it's amazing that after those such difficult moments, you can see the light and keep on moving. And that has to do a lot with the resilience. I think I've met lots of entrepreneurs in my life, and I think the common factor that they have is this energy, this resilience, this let's keep on moving, and that's...
Yeah, I always say to myself, there is no plan B. Some investors on board, what is your plan B? Plan B is to make plan A.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you, Vlad. Moving into resilience, this question will be for Sergi and Héctor. That I want, if you could share with us which internal resources or external support systems help you cope with this emotional roller coaster of scaling a company.
Yeah, in my case, I'm fortunate because I have 3 great co-founders who strongly support each other. So we have created like healthy dynamics between the 4 of us, and we support when we are low energy. We try to push forward the other co-founder. So I think choosing the right partners makes this journey much more easier. So this is my mental health support system, my partners.
Having the co-founders, the right co-founders there for you.
I think I would say 2 things. One is related to what Héctor said. So internally, having the right partners across co-founders, investors, and employees. I think the moment you're disconnected from any of those, it's much more difficult to lead under difficult times, which is normally where you can be at your lowest mental moment or more emotional roller coaster. No? So I think what I learned is creating this small set of also team members that you are very close to, that they can support you, apart, of course, from your co-founders. And then, of course, selecting the right investors that think long-term, that understand that there's ups and downs in a journey, and the important is to truly believe on the fundamentals of the business and continue thinking ahead, no? And not getting nervous just on short term. So for me, that's the first one. Secondly, something that helped me a lot, and I was not super believer at before building Colvin, was coaching. I had a very relevant motorbike accident. I was 1 month in hospital also and stuff. And then after this, I started coaching, and I discovered it at this moment. And I think it's a tool to get to know you better, to make yourself the questions that normally you don't make yourself, to be more proactive about the roller coaster, which is scaling a company, right? So those are the 2 things I would recommend. I think also when you build second time, it's less of a roller coaster. It's not as exciting on the downs or on the ups, and not as nervous on the downs either, no? So it just gets more stable.
Great. Wow, thanks. And Elena, Vlad, I wanted to like a quick reality check. So in your opinion, what is the most misunderstood aspect of being a founder, of being an entrepreneur, that you wish investors or even family or friends understood better? Vlad, do you want to start?
I go. I was wondering on this question for a while, and I don't feel a lot of frustrations. Maybe it's, maybe with investors, like when you have a lot of processes that we are really dislike by nature. But I was wondering, like, something that for me is a bit frustrating, it's more about society, is that there is not only a role model of entrepreneur. I think we share the energy. I think we share the ambition to control our destiny. But you know, I don't work 24 hours, 7 days a week. I have priorities. I have kids. And there must be different models of being an entrepreneur that are successful entrepreneurs, although of course we have failures too. On the wall, on our mindset. That will be my approach. It just came to my mind now.
No, it's great.
Looking
It's
around.
it's not all about there are different priorities, and setting up priorities for an entrepreneur or for anyone is also very important, no? Because it defines your strategy. It defines also where to put the most energy and what to stop and cut, no?
For me, companies are like kids. It's one more on the house, you know. But anyway, there are different ways of doing things. Just that.
Vlad.
Well, from my perspective, probably I will taste something evident, but I just would like to say that investors should fully understand that they don't know business to such extent as the founders and the operational team, and they should provide strategic support at board level, but never ever go to operations, because it's the end game. This is number one. And number two, I think being the founder and CEO or executive along the journey is not the same. So founders need to grow together with the company to make sure that they can deliver good results. And it's not easy. So I think that personal educational, personal growth and professional growth as being the founder is very important to make sure that they will not miss the train. And the train is the business.
Super. Anything you want to add about the question of what you think it's the most misunderstood aspects of being a founder?
It's not just speaking in this kind of venues. It's working hard in your home. It's not just being in the headline of a newspaper. It's all the work behind that. And I think there are a lot of new founders, and I have a lot of conversations with people starting building things, and all the same thing. Hey, I want to be in this newspaper raising a 20 million euro Series A. I said, this is not your work. These are going to be the results if you work hard, if you build something that someone they want to pay. So yeah, there are a lot of myths around the entrepreneurship.
I think for me, like and we talk about startup, but there's a lot of types of business, no? But for me, a startup is something that has a global ambition, that grows fast, that raises busy money. This is a very linked to high-performance career. No, you need to go very fast. You need to make very little mistakes. You need to work very hard, build a high-performing team. So I think sometimes, maybe not as investors, if you have the right investors, they should understand this. But potentially, family and friends just see it as work, no? And it's like you work too much. Well, and you don't go on an F1 driver and say, hey, you drive too much. No, he's training to actually achieve something. No, so maybe, and I like sports analogies a lot. That's myself, but I think that's maybe the only thing I would say, which is, hey, for me, it's not just work. It's what I want to dedicate my life to, and I want to achieve something. So it requires certain sacrifice from myself, and also the teams that join us. We have this very present.
A lot of friends ask me, how do you manage your personal life or professional life? There's just one life. But in my case, 80% of my energy is focused on the professional side. So yeah, it's difficult to build families. I'm not at this stage yet, but I will imagine that will be really difficult to create a family, spend time with my kids.
Well, no, that's another typical question that has to do with being an entrepreneur, with that it's like the work-life balance, no? But it's interesting what you mentioned, that I'm openly sharing that this is my priority right now. There could be different priorities or another kid, but it's also important, and last year we discussed it also in the panels here, that is interesting to in some way balance it, to avoid a potential burnout or whatever. What are you doing something, or how do you cope with this?
In my case, we are doing a dynamic between founders. Every quarter, we do a founders retreat, depending on the time of the year. It could be in the mountain or in the beach, and we try to spend 1 week or 10 days just sharing time, not trying to deep dive into the most critical aspects of the company, just sharing our thoughts, sharing our lives, and this kind of dynamic has helped us to create this balance and to create this safe space between the four of us.
Great.
I think for me, being true to yourself and setting the clear expectations, because I think frustration comes from expectations and reality, and if the distance is very high, I think that you can just burn out, no? And I think that it's, with the co-founders and the team, we even do it is, hey, what do we want to build and what do we want to achieve, right? And okay, if we want to get here, do we understand what is the cost, and are we willing to take it, right? And I think that that's the first one that we do, which is being very open, trying to reflect on it. And then secondly, yes, we have some dynamics. We even have some team coaching sometimes to get ready for what's coming. And then we also, of course, try to have fun. But I always make an analogy when I hire, and maybe it's a good one or not, but it's some people enjoy doing. I have friends that do Ironmans, right? They train for it and they pay to do an Ironman every month, right? And I have friends that if you put them to do an Ironman, they would kill themselves. No? So there's just different type of people, and for me, it's hiring the right people for what we want to achieve. And I think in this way, there's less probability of burning out.
What about you? You have family, you mentioned, so also it's how are you managing your work-life balance and potential?
There is no work-life balance.
There is no work-life balance. Good statement. Boom.
No, it's a bullshit. Well, and burnout is fine, so it's not cancer, so it's
that's what frustrates me. There is no work balance. This is impossible. You know, that's a model, but this model creates companies that are extremely dependent on funders. And let's accept it. Funders are really good at the beginning. We are energetic. We are creative. We push a lot. But then either we grow or we move on. And we have to accept that if you really know where you are good at, you will move in the right moment.
Yeah.
So I think there are other ways. I think the companies could be funded in a different way, and you will create stronger teams than you do if you think that you are the fundamental key and you have to be 24 hours.
Yeah.
So it's a different perspective.
I agree with you, Elena, and just like, because I just think that we check startup or VC as an asset class. I think it's different, right? There's a lot of ways of building a company. There's a lot of ways of building a company in a specific space. Okay. I just think that as founders or VCs, we need to be consistent, right? So on us, we are in AI, application layer, in HR. This is a competitive space. We either go and act as an F1 team, or we will not make it. And And that's reality. No? Maybe this is different for another business where, hey, it's always about speed, but it's not that much about speed. It's about other factors. So I agree with you. It's just, I think, putting the right team at the right place at the right opportunity, everything is possible.
Super. So I think we're almost there. We're like in a negative, but I think I can let's do that. The last question, which is moving back to our desert island theme. You already mentioned about what would be the one thing that you take to a desert island. And now let's talk about the one thing you pack on your entrepreneurial survival kit. And if it's something different than what you mentioned before or no, and again, no judgment. So, Sergi.
Myself. I don't know, optimism. There's always keep optimism and positivism inside the team despite setbacks. And of course, be aware of the things that are not working on, but keep a positive attitude to the setbacks that you get. And I would desire bring that with me, but also my team to make sure that we keep facing setbacks and not just taking them with positivity.
Super. Héctor.
Yeah, related with this boating branding, I will say a compass instead of a map. Because in entrepreneurship, there's no fixed route. You just have to set your North Star, your mission, and keep pushing.
I'm scared about your answer.
No, I already answered at the beginning. It looks like it's the same question. No, shall we change our mind?
No, maybe not. You still have to survive. You still need a net. And
I still need my fishing net, for sure.
Exactly.
Well, resilience, I think. Resilience is everything.
Yeah, great. And Elena?
So in reality, you didn't put any limitation. I will take a boat, put my team, diverse team, purpose-driven on the boat, and bring it with me.
Exactly, no limitations.
Nobody told you that there is a limit.
Super. Bueno, thank you. Thank you. And unfortunately, we're out of time. It was an amazing panel. Thank you for sharing all your learnings and all your experiences so transparently. I'm sure there are many entrepreneurs in the audience that have faced similar challenges or are facing them right now, and this is very insightful. We know that we can definitely learn from early wins, but sometimes we learn more about the most difficult chapters. So thanks again, and a big warm applause for them.
Thank you.